Good afternoon. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me in this afternoon's session on the power of well-being, getting ahead of mental health in our new work environment. My name is Dr. Henry Majid, and I am the co-founder of My Mind and also a visiting fellow at the Scholl Centre for Social Entrepreneurship at Said Business School at the University of Oxford. Some of you may have seen me presenting last year. My history will share with you that this is a very personal journey and a very personal story for me. So I initially started my career as a neurologist within the NHS, focusing on problems looking internally, and then stepped away from that to try to have a bigger impact, working for large corporations, focusing on sustainability, trying to have a large global external impact. For the last 5 years, I was running a company called the Innovation Gateway, a collaboration of large corporates enabling them to be more sustainable. And I stepped down at the beginning of March this year in response to COVID-19 to support the impacts on businesses and individuals as a result. And I recently set up in March My Mind, which is a digital health platform tackling the rising challenge of mental health and well-being, intensified by COVID-19 and the lockdown. My Mind enables early targeted intervention for those in need and proactively supports individuals to improve their resiliency, well-being, unlocking the potential to thrive. So this afternoon, we will take some time to explore one of the greatest challenges that we're facing right now, the new work environment. We'll examine what this means and how it might affect us, and we'll consider a powerful opportunity to protect our most valuable asset, our workforce, to emerge from this situation stronger than before. So let's take a look at a workplace. It looks a little different to the ones we're used to. This is 10,000 years ago, 8020 BC. And I think you can see the sales team, the operations team, the finance team. The workplace looked a little different then. Let's move forward in time. 1,000 years ago, 1020, just a little before the Battle of Hastings. A typical job was in the infantry or cavalry, and you were probably at war. Going back 100 years, this is a factory building components. You can see it's very different to the workplaces of today. Everyone's lined up, no one's speaking to each other, there's very little collaboration, people are siloed, not the kind of business that we're working in now. Let's go back 10 years. 10 years ago, in 2010, we each had our workstation, we had multiple screens, we may have been in our corner office, but we were working at our desk. As recently as 7 months ago, we worked in open plan offices, which created an effective culture and allowed us to cross-fertilize ideas. However, COVID-19 came along, and this changed everything. As a result of COVID-19, this is more like the workplace that you're used to. I'm sure this is very familiar to all of you. Working in a very different way, in a different environment. New working practices that are forced upon us. We're always on. There's little time to break away. There's little time to connect. We're doing very different jobs to the ones that we were used to. And this change was forced upon us almost overnight. There was little chance to adapt and fit and see how this works for us. The pace of change and complexity made it very difficult. This is another example. Conflicting priorities. Many of us, even now, may be at home with our families, trying to balance our work and our commitments around the house. And even students are having a tough time. Some of you will have seen that many of the universities that have been impacted by COVID have gone into lockdown. And so no workplace is safe. Everyone has needed to adapt. COVID-19 has accelerated and exacerbated an existing mental health crisis among the global workforce. Factors around resilience and grit, seeing how we are able to endure, have taken their toll on the workforce. In the UK, the Office of National Statistics found that the number of people with depression has doubled during the pandemic, with 1 in 5 people expressing being depressed in June. As a result of isolation, trauma, job insecurity, and global recession, COVID has had an impact, and there are more and more of these shocks that we can expect to be forced upon us. Climate impact, managing our personal data, AI and robotics. There are many challenges and shocks that we're going to need to face into within the new workforce. Through COVID-19 and lockdown and isolation, we've seen a loss of freedom, a loss of control, a loss of normality, a loss of security, and a loss of connection. You'll be familiar with the 7 stages of grief, the Kubler-Ross change curve. We've seen a greater risk of burnout, reduced psychological safety and vulnerability. We're at much greater risk of mental health impacts such as anxiety and depression. And we've seen compromised resilience of well-being in terms of our protective factors to be able to adapt and cope, much of it forced by the sudden change. In the knowledge economy that we're working in, our people are our most valuable asset. This has changed over time, and this is the one that we must protect in the way that we adapt and shape our business. So mental health and well-being, a problem worth solving. 1 in 4 adults are suffering from poor mental health right now. 3/4 of them remain untreated. As a result of that isolation, uncertainty, job insecurity and recession, 48% of people report their mental health has been impacted, placing even greater burden on the NHS and society. Stress, anxiety and depression are responsible for nearly half the days lost at a cost of £45 billion a year to employers, which is a 16% increase over the last 3 years. And 62% of company boards report that mental health is their biggest concern. Mental health is a new pandemic that we need to get ahead of. To see how that £46 billion plays out, that's before even taking into account reduced creativity, innovation and relationships. It's based on absence, around £7 billion. Presenteeism, being at work but not able to be productive, around 30 billion. And turnover of employees, almost 9 billion. The average number of days lost to presenteeism is 31.6 days. Looking at the industry sectors, some of which you will be able to relate to, we can see within the finance, insurance and real estate sector, it's almost £3,500 on average lost per employee within these sectors. Information and communication, not much lower, and professional services also around £2,000 to £2,500 per employee as a result of absence, presenteeism and turnover, owing to compromised mental health and well-being. So let's take a look at how this presenteeism, absenteeism and leavism affects us. These are some charts from a mindfulness company called Awaris, who were colleagues, who looked at the comparison of positive outlook against insight or productivity, 2 key features for being successful in business. On the left, we see that a positive mood has a positive correlation with being able to act on insights. The test that they did was ask 79 participants to indicate the range of potential solutions they could use to solve a problem, and saw a positive correlation. In comparison, anxiety sees a reduction in ability to use insight, which severely compromises your ability to think creatively when you're at work. Similarly, the ESM, experience sampling method, is a strategy for gathering information from individuals about their experience in daily life, looking at the correlation between happiness and productivity. And again, we see a positive correlation, which is compromised when people don't have the full mental health and well-being at their disposal. Then looking at mental fatigue for decision-making. This was looking at judicial decision-making. I describe this as you're not you when you're hungry. In this test in Israel, the study researchers looked at 1,000 judgments for judges who were taking two food breaks whilst deciding who to file parole requests. As you can see on the charts, favourable rulings dropped gradually from 65% down to 0 as they got closer to the point of their break. Repeated decisions depletes individuals' executive function and mental resources. They try to simplify by accepting the status quo. However, breaks and better well-being and protective factors restore executive function, allowing you to overcome mental fatigue, replenishing mental resources. Certainly something that we see within businesses when you don't have the opportunity to take the break from your screen or continually needing to jump from one task on your computer to looking after the family without getting those breaks that we used to when we were in offices. Let's take a look at another, happiness versus threat or fear. We see with a positive environment and a positive outlook, cognitive abilities allow us to derive greater insights, to consider more alternatives, have stronger engagement, and make fewer perceptual mistakes. It allows us to make conscious decision-making, giving us a broader focus on others, the whole, and taking responsibility. Compared to a situation where we're under greater distress, without the opportunity to be able to promote our well-being and protective factors, where we're open to fewer new ideas, we're more likely to reject new ideas, we're more likely to make mistakes and have tunnel vision, and we rely on established patterns, moving away from innovation. We focus on ourselves, on survival and defense, which compromises our judgment. Now, what if we could emerge from this difficult situation stronger than before, to enable our most valuable asset to unlock its full potential? A more resilient workforce able to flourish and face into future challenges. Taking this common description of resilience, capacity to remain flexible in our thoughts, feelings, and behaviours when faced with life disruption or extended periods of pressure, so that we can emerge from a difficulty stronger, wiser, and more able. This is our opportunity. We know what underpins resilience and well-being. The neuroscience and clinical psychology is well understood. We have evidence-based tools. My invitation to you is to engage, to create the conditions for your workforce to thrive, and take this as an opportunity for key competitive advantage. We know that prevention is better than cure. Early intervention can reduce severity and avoid crisis. The challenge for organisations is getting ahead of this new mental health pandemic. The problem is, up to now, there is no dependable way to identify those suffering or tools to effectively target resources and support. My Mind is the solution. Our platform offers a consistent approach, identifying issues early and directing appropriate support to precisely where it's needed, unlocking the potential to thrive. We enable employees to take control of their mental health and to help employers target well-being efforts at organisational needs. The My Mind platform is based around a secure online behavioural health assessment. Results generate a total function score along a scale from at risk to optimal across key indicators, like a BMI for the mind. Users get detailed understanding of both the mental health risks and protective factors or resilience, and are directed into targeted resources and support. Concerns are followed up by trained professionals for validation and further guidance, with the platform designed to be repeated to manage and track progress. We help build greater resilience to prevent issues deteriorating, reducing distress for individuals, enabling impact for employers, and reducing burden on the NHS. This takes a 2-year study of 30,000 students, mapping risk and resiliency data to academic outcomes, behavioural outcomes, such as lateness, absence, and punishments required. It was seen that reducing just one step between risk, moderate concern, satisfactory, and optimal, absence reduced by 5%, GPA declined by 15%, lateness declined by 15%, and test scores improved by 17%. Over a 6-month period, Focusing on resiliency factors, students on every point of the continuum showed improvement, with at-risk score reduced by 39%. Here we see the points that you're able to make an intervention. This is from a Deloitte study from 2020 looking at employee well-being. We see that you see a return on investment of 6 to 1 for every pound invested for mental health awareness and organizational culture. Again, proactive mental health support offers an average return on investment of 5 to 1, allowing you to tackle the 7 billion absentee and 30 billion presenteeism, whilst being able to identify people early who are suffering from poor mental health. You're able to take reactive mental health support, where you see a average return on investment of £3 per pound investment. And these are the areas that you need to target to be able to have a holistic approach to employee well-being. Let's take a look at some of the returns on investment. Again, from the Deloitte report, which we'll share, the case for well-being demonstrates the different elements you're able to take to drive holistic mental health and well-being. Investment in mental health delivers an average return of £5 per pound investment, but this rises up to £11 when the approach includes large-scale cultural engagement, a focus on prevention and building employee resilience, and using technology and data-driven diagnostics to tailor support at those most at risk. So as we navigate a new work environment, it's critical that business leaders are investing in the well-being of their most valued asset, their employees, to get ahead of this mental health pandemic. There's increasing recognition that a happy, healthy, and energized workforce is a key driver to business success. At My Mind, we're helping humanity thrive, and we invite you to join us. Thank you.